Well, good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our annual Meet the Presidential Award Winners event. My name is Corey Miller. I'm one of our Directors of Strategic Partnerships here at the Ashesi University Foundation. On behalf of the Foundation, I'm here to welcome and thank all of our global partners and friends from around the world for joining us today. With that, here's a brief overview of what we'll be covering in the next hour together. First on the agenda, the first speaker will be Dean Abdul from campus, who's going to give a brief overview, history, and significance of the award itself. For those who may not be aware, the President's Award is actually the highest honor a student can receive on Ashesi campus. Dean Abdul will also introduce the 3 students who won this award last year during graduation season, and they are now proud Ashesi alumni. Next, our president, Patrick, will lead a dynamic panel discussion with the recipients about their stories and their impact. After the panel, we'll jump into audience Q&A, where you all as participants can ask your questions live in the chat for deeper discussion. Lastly, we'll wrap up with closing remarks and say our goodbyes at the top of the hour. Again, on behalf of the Foundation, we want to welcome you and thank you for joining this special annual event. And I'm excited to pass the mic off to Dean Abdul, who will give a brief overview of the award itself. Please join me in welcoming Dean Abdul.
Thank you very much, Corey. Thank you all for joining us. Good morning, good afternoon. The President's Award, or the Scholarship, Leadership, and Citizenship Award, is given to graduates who have lived out Ashesi's core values during their time at the university. So recipients have contributed in outstanding ways to Ashesi's mission and have had a strong impact on the Ashesi community. And they represent some of the strongest examples of outcomes of an Ashesi education. This is indeed the highest award a student can receive at Ashesi. For class of 2021, we were extremely lucky to have these 3 outstanding students receive this award to continue this excellent tradition. It's my pleasure to introduce you all to the 3 recipients of this award. Lloyd Teta, Mechanical Engineering; Tamisha Segbefia, Computer Engineering; and Edem Yegbe, Management Information Systems. It's my pleasure to hand this conversation over to our President, Dr. Patrick Ewa. Thank you very much.
Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I know for some of you on the West Coast, it's quite early for you yet in the day, so we appreciate your presence. So it's always a real pleasure and a real joy to reconnect with alumni, and especially those who won the President's Award the year prior. I thought what we would start with is just ask each of you to tell us a little bit about what you've been doing this past year. You've been out of college for a year now, and if you could just let us know, what are you up to? We'll start with Edem, and then Tamisha, and then Lloyd.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Patrick. So I've been doing a few things since graduating. I'm currently working with EY's Ghana office as part of the assurance department. And I think for me, the goal there is to really get a good sense of how large businesses work from behind the scenes, and hopefully from there transition into a more finance-focused role. And apart from that, I'm also working on building a few business ventures on the side. So that's what I've been up to. Yeah.
Okay. Tamisha?
Hi, everyone. Great to meet you. So I've been doing my national service with Ashesi as a research assistant in the Provost's office. And then in addition to that, I have also been volunteering with a nonprofit that works to help Black women in STEM, specifically tech and finance. And then I'll also be going to grad school this fall to study biomedical engineering at Johns Hopkins.
Okay. Lloyd.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity, Patrick. So I'm currently pursuing my PhD in aerospace engineering at Georgia Institute of Technology, and I'm focusing on electric aircraft propulsion with the aim of reducing emissions. I've also been working with Flight Technologies, a startup company that I co-founded last year in December with my friend. Our hope is one to design and locally manufacture drones that we can use for your service delivery as well as agricultural purposes. Thank you.
Okay, so I guess I'll come back. Well, let's stay with you, Lloyd, for a bit, and I'll come back to Tamisha. So Lloyd, what's driving your interest in mechanical engineering? And how did you get to be at Georgia Tech?
Thank you for the question. So, okay, growing up, I was always been fascinated by flying aircrafts. Like the idea that I'm seeing like a huge body floating in air, always inspired me. Like I wanted to know like how do this really thing work. So as I explored more in aviation industry, I realized that it's actually one of the largest greenhouse emitters. So kind of like my shift changed from only want to design aircrafts, but also to design sustainable aircrafts. And that's the reason why I chose to do mechanical engineering, because firstly, mechanical engineering is a broad field, and aerospace engineering is just like a subfield of mechanical engineering. So that's why I decided to pursue mechanical engineering, because I wanted like to understand like a broad sense of every engineering aspect before I focus solely on aerospace engineering. And so when I was at Ashesi, I got the opportunity like to interact with faculties. I told them like my interests, example like Dr. Eda Bim, and they were very supportive to me. And I told you that I'm looking forward to go to graduate school. And this time I want like to focus on aerospace engineering. And so yeah, she gave me like advice. She's been here in the US, and I applied and I got into Georgia Institute of Technology.
So you started with an interest in machines, and especially flying machines, and now you have a purpose, which has to do with sustainability and the environment, and connecting those two interests together. Is that a fair summary?
Yes, that's basically the summary about that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why even at Ashesi I took part in some of like sustainability activities.
Okay. So Tamisha, you said you're gonna start a graduate program in bioengineering. Why bioengineering?
Yes, so biomedical engineering, the reason I'm stressing on that is it's the medical aspect that I'm interested in. So both my parents are doctors, but I knew that I wasn't going to do medicine anytime soon. And when I came to Ashesi, I was sort of bent on doing cybersecurity until I was selected as our team captain for our iGEM team, which is a synthetic biology competition that runs each year. And after going through iGEM, I realized that I could actually connect biology and healthcare and medicine with what I was interested in, which was programming and even cybersecurity to some extent. So I settled on biomedical engineering because one of the major things that I want to do is to actually like use computational methods to transform how we look at healthcare around the world, but specifically in Ghana and in Africa, because for a lot of the things that we do in terms of healthcare and medicine, these are very analog, but some of the things that I'm interested in doing are, okay, we have a patient's history, we have their data. How can we potentially create a model that will help us understand and identify what sorts of diseases that the person might face later on in their lives? What are some of the ways that we can personalize the medicine that we give to these people to ensure that, we're not just giving everybody something generic, but it's based on data, it's based on insights, it's based on analytics. So for my degree, my focus area will actually be computational medicine, which is basically everything that I just described. I hope it wasn't too technical. I tend to chat a little bit when it comes to that.
You did well. You did good. I think we all understand what you're saying. Okay, so great. So parents in medicine, you decide to do engineering, and then you decide you're going to connect your engineering with medicine.
Exactly.
And not just engineering, but computational engineering to medicine.
Yeah.
Lloyd, tell us a little bit about what your leadership journey has been so far. What is it? Not well. No, let's do Adam. Adam, tell us what your leadership journey has been so far this past year.
Okay. Well, this past year, it's been interesting. It's been interesting. It's been challenging. Trying to fit into a new environment, especially in a field that I wasn't too familiar with, which was accounting, auditing, and finance generally. It was a real challenge. And I think the lessons I learned from Ashesi, which I believe taught me beyond or above all, just how to learn and how to be confident in learning new things, and how to persevere in that pursuit has helped me tremendously in this journey so far. At EY, it's a very, interesting culture. People are very welcoming. People are very open to helping other people. And so it has also really reshaped the way I think about leadership, especially in the business or in the corporate world. So it's been an interesting journey so far.
So you studied information systems, right, at Ashesi? And in
Yes,
that
yes.
program, you do a little bit of accounting and finance, but not a lot.
Exactly.
So why EY, and why EY working in audit?
Yes, I get this question a lot. And to be completely honest, I'll just say the full story. So I was reading a book. It was the biography of John D. Rockefeller, Titan. And it was basically explaining how his life went from being a small town boy to being the richest man in America. And one of the things they emphasized, or one of the things that stood out to me in the book, was how important accounting was in trying to understand business. And I mean, I'd heard Warren Buffett talk about, accounting, understanding the financial statements, this, that. But I was all about, design thinking, entrepreneurship, that type of thing. And so seeing that, I realized, what, it might be helpful to be in that space where I can actually work with large companies and figure out how they work on the back end, figure out how important accounting is to building a successful, efficient business. And so that's honestly how I ended up at EY.
So is it a fair, I'm sort of reading what you're saying and between the lines and saying, you're planning to start a business of your own at some point, and
Definitely.
EY is part of your education towards doing that.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right. So this is still the scholarship part of leadership.
Yes.
Is what you're
yes.
engaged in. Got it. All right.
Very much so.
Okay. So I'll just do another quick round robin for all of you to tell us a little bit about what pressures you faced as scholars, citizens, leaders. You can tell us both as when you're students at Ashesi, but also this past year, as you've gone out into the world of work or graduate education. This time, let's start with Lloyd.
Thank you, Patrick. One of the pressure that I've been facing is it's kind of like maybe my mates or other people, they tend to think that probably you know everything, that you should be always like maybe at the forefront of doing something. So yeah, I've been telling like some of my friends that everything that I've been doing, like I've been working with a team, and I've been fortunate like working with great teams. So it's not like every achievement that I achieved, it was only solely on me, but because of people that I've been working with. I think that's like one of like the most precious, like everyone just looking up. They expect you to do probably to do much. Yeah, so that's one of the pressures. And sometimes it's also meeting expectations. Because of that, they would expect that you have to do something. So I think that's one thing I could say.
And this is a pressure that you felt both at your time at Ashesi and at Georgia Tech?
Yeah, okay, it actually started when I was at Ashesi. So, and actually living in Ashesi, and now because I'm out of Ashesi, everyone knows that, okay, I'm doing PhD. So yeah, it's kind of like they're really expecting so much.
Okay, all right. Tamisha?
Yeah, I sort of have something similar to what Lloyd shared. But I think that for me, the way I would frame it is like as a Shesi, everybody would sort of like just, they would look at me and be like, oh wow, Samisha has her life together, which wasn't a lie per se, but it was like everybody just was like, okay, everything is so perfect, and she doesn't make mistakes, and she doesn't do this and she doesn't do that. And I feel like as I came into like the working world and volunteering with a nonprofit that I'm with currently, it just became so magnified, and it just felt to me that like I was holding the decisions and destinies of so many people on my shoulders, and I struggled a little with coping with that. I mean, Eden can tell you I have ranted to him many times about that, but I feel like one thing that I've really been struggling with thus far is just sort of not managing expectations, because Ashesi does train us to be excellent, and a hallmark of an Ashesi student is excellence, but just sort of like having that balance of I don't know everything, and I want you to know that I don't know everything, but as an Ashesi student, as an Ashesi alum, I'm willing to learn, and I'm willing to continue working hard to be excellent. So that was one of the main sorts of like challenges that I faced coming out of Ashesi. And then I think maybe a last one that I would say before we move on is that it's so easy in Ashesi to feel so sheltered and to feel like you're in some kind of bubble. And so once you go out into the real world, there's a little, well, Ashesi is the real world, but I say real world in quotes. But once you go out into that, there's a little adjustment that needs to be made. Not everybody is an Ashesi, and not everybody is honest. Not everybody is ethical. Not everybody does the right thing. Not everybody says the right thing. And so just being able to shift into that mindset and understand that even though not everybody does the right thing, as an Ashesi alum, you've been placed as a kind of light in that place, in that community, in that area, to shine that Ashesi experience and to extend it beyond just yourself, but also to the people around you. Yeah, thank you.
Adam?
Right. So the pressures and the challenges, I'll touch on two things, right? The first one is drawing the line between compromise and empathy, right? Because I find that as a leader, you have to be empathetic, of course. One of the core values of leadership is empathy. And you have to be able to see life through the lens of, through other people's eyes, right? And figure out how to help them out and how to solve problems. At the same time, it sort of pushes you to compromise on certain values and certain standards that you may have already set for yourself. And that's been one of the pressures since leaving Ashesi in terms of leadership. The other one I would say is really maintaining a standard of excellence. And I think, well, I can only speak for myself, but most likely for my other panelists, it's harder to live up to your own expectations of yourself than even other people's expectations of you. And a lot of the time there's that conflict internally that, hey, I know I'm supposed to be doing this, or I can do this better, or these people need my help with this, I need to help solve this problem like this. And you just feel like, hey, there's so much more I can do. And that push, that pressure you put on yourself, I think is one of the major pressures that leaders face, and that I've faced since. So yes.
Okay. I'll come back to you, Lloyd. So you're you're from Zimbabwe, you came to Ghana, to Ashesi University, and now you're in the United States pursuing a PhD. Now, Zimbabwe, I mean, we all know has great difficulties, great economic challenges, and so on. And I guess a question on my mind, probably on a lot of people's minds, is how are you thinking about the your long-term future? Do you think about if and when you'll return to the African continent, if and when you'll return to Zimbabwe? How are you processing that issue?
Thank you. This is really a great question. Yeah, I think many people have been asking that question. And indeed, coming back to Africa is actually one of my goals. So first and foremost, as I already said, like I co-founded a company in Zimbabwe that is manufacturing drones. My vision in general is to help like bridge massive gap between Africa's aerospace industry and that of the first world countries. And by now, by the idea of starting this company, I'm hoping that by the time I finish my PhD, I would have gained like experience, expertise, and I would have like made like meaningful connections with people within industries, with the hope that when I come back, I'll be able to scale up this company from not only manufacturing drones, but also assembling aircrafts as well, probably rockets. So I believe I believe that this is something that I cannot do alone, considering that considering the situation that Zimbabwe is in, and probably considering that that most African countries were facing these challenges, economic challenges. So my idea is also to also consider helping others who are interested in aerospace, not only aerospace, but engineering, certain expertise that will help like make this vision like come into fruition. So that is my idea. I want to help other students, young people who are interested in education, engineering, computer science, everything, be able to study this program. This could be either through setting up institution or supporting current institution in Africa, because I don't want to rely on exporting expertise or skills from abroad and to make this, to make Africa a better place. So I want Africa to have our own engineers, our own skills, and this will only help to bridge the gap that I'm hoping to. So this is the idea that I have when I finish my graduate programs.
Okay, great. So those are quite big ambitions. I think it's great that you've already started a company in Zimbabwe that's building drones. I think that having started a project like that is going to help keep you connected and grounded. So keep the dream alive. I can tell you as somebody who left the US, it's not easy, but I think that if you have that focus and if you keep it, you'll be okay. I see Tamisha laughing at that. Tamisha, you want to share? What are your plans? You're heading off to the US this fall, and then what's the long-term strategy and plan? Do you have one?
Yeah, so I mean, like I guess maybe one of the key things that I would want to do is just sort of I've never really thought about setting up a company is what I'll start by saying. And a lot of the contributions that I have wanted to make to the continent would be in terms of research. So even after getting my master's and working for a while and going on to do a PhD as well, you know, sort of like leading that research front in Ghana and then extending to Africa as well. But it's interesting, in leadership 4, I think, we had an assignment to write a leadership development plan. And as one of those leadership development plans, we had to write like a tribute of ourselves from someone else's point of view. So I wrote it from one of my children, long story. And in it, one of the things that I put there was that I had wanted to set up an AI training academy for women, right? And the more I've thought about it, the more I'm realizing that it doesn't just even have to be centered on artificial intelligence. The way I want to use computation to help improve healthcare, it could actually just be something that helps teach, maybe not just women, but maybe to just women, computational skills that they can then apply in broader areas. So it might start off as computational healthcare, computational medicine, and potentially progress into just applying computational techniques and computational research into improving the state of affairs in African countries. I think Ghana is a good place to start because I'm from Ghana, but also because I've seen that in terms of the bioinformatics space, there are a couple of startups that are up and coming and sort of like breaking stride and making impact. And so I think that that would be a good place to start, just like being part of the people who are leading the research for these methods and seeing, not just leading the research, but also seeing them like implemented in our hospitals and in our schools and in places that need them the most. So yes, I think in summary, research and a potential computational academy. Who knows?
Okay, sounds good. Maybe you can set up a computational academy at Ashesi.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. So I see we have our first question from an attendee. So I'll read it, and then if you could just, whoever wants to answer, please go ahead. So here it is. Hi, very good conversation about pressure and expectations. Assuming that all three of you have friends outside of Ashesi and compare notes, can you share in what ways Ashesi is so different from the other higher educational institutions in Ghana in instilling such strong commitment to succeed and to be a leader?
I think I can start if that's okay.
Sure, you have the spotlight, so go ahead.
Thank you. So I think that one of the major things is at Ashesi, you're literally thrown into the lion's den, I'll say very gently, because there's so many, yeah, exactly. There's so many opportunities for you to be a leader, A, and there are so many opportunities for you to succeed, B. So like literally as soon as you step into the four walls of Ashesi, like I remember freshman day, we had color groups and already they were like, okay, who wants to lead a color group? It seemed like such a harmless interaction, but it was setting us up for the fact that as we went through our lives at Ashesi, we would have to be leaders. We would have to be people that stepped up to the plate and did what was needed of us. Academics at Ashesi are not the easiest, I won't lie. And I feel like just knowing that from the get-go, or knowing that from the onset, and just sort of like hearing people talk about how Ashesi is a place of excellence also gives you that ambition or that drive to continually succeed and to continually be a leader. And then I think the last thing that I'll say is, so I served on the student government. Eden was my president. And even as student council representatives, though we were representing the school and we did liaise with the executive board and we liaised with administration, we were the ones leading the campus, right? And so it's like you're leading the campus, you have to succeed, you have to be a leader, whether you like it or not. And so it just brings me back to my point of being thrown in the lion's den, that there are so many opportunities for you to actually just be a leader right from the get-go, from being a color group leader to leading your team in a presentation to being, all those other things. So I mean, I think that that's one thing that really sets Ashesi apart, just having that practical experience, in addition to being taught leadership and in addition to being taught how to excel and in addition to being taught how to succeed, actually being given those platforms and those opportunities to practice what it is that you've learned. Thank you.
Adam, do you want to go next?
Yes, I'd like to go next. I hope you can still hear me clearly. Great. So with regards to, comparing notes, I think one of the things I've noticed about my counterparts in other institutions is that when they think about leadership, for the most part, what comes to their mind is someone holding a position or someone having a title, more or less. And for me, being at Ashesi, it really just reminded me of something one of my high school teachers told me. He told me that there are leaders and there are those who lead. And it was an interesting paradox for me at the time. But coming to Ashesi, that phrase just made a lot more sense to me, because I realized that I don't necessarily have to be given a title. I don't have to be given a position to step into a leadership role. And in the littlest of things, even by being in a hostel and having roommates, I can show a sense of leadership. I can say, hi, hey guys, we need to clean this place up. We need to do this, we need to do that. Just by taking responsibility and understanding that it doesn't have to be a formal position. You can be a leader in any field you find yourself, in any space you find yourself, once you have that mindset. And so I guess, in summary, Ashesi gives you the mindset of leadership outside the box of having a position or a title. That's what I think.
Lloyd, do you want to add to that, or should we go for more questions, perhaps from the audience?
Okay, I think I would just add that being at Ashesi made me a citizen of the world, I would say so. So, for example, in my experience from high school, or I never really took part like working in groups or teams. Most of the things were more about like individual work and so on. So I never got this idea of like working teams. Like I never impressed working in teams. But when I joined Ashesi, they instilled this this idea of working with each other, embracing diversity, working with different people from different cultures. The Ashesi made me realize that made me to subscribe the idea of this African ideology of Ubuntu. My friends, I think they remember it from leadership. So I am because you are. So basically, this idea is that we are one person, irrespective of our differences and so on. So I believe that being able to embrace each other made this conducive environment for learning. We're able like to hold each other accountable. So I believe if the world can see, if we can see that we are just one person, and irrespective of all our ideas, respecting each other's cultures, values, and so on, I believe it will be a great world to live in. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I see we have a question from Linda. As a Ashesi alumni, what do you see as your responsibility to the current and future Ashesi students and the wider Ashesi community? Adam, you have this, Lloyd, you have this spotlight, so can you start?
Sorry, I was muted. So my idea is to encourage others. First, I can talk about like self-awareness, being able to identify yourself, know your weakness, know your strength. I believe that some of the things that, some of the reason why other people maybe are not taking initiatives, they actually, I believe like everyone has interest in something, but I believe that one of the reasons why other people may not like take initiative they want to do is because of maybe one or two weaknesses that they face. So that's one thing that I always think that I can encourage others from my former school, other people that around me, that you need to identify your weaknesses, and then try to step out of it, like your comfort zone, try to work on your weakness. For example, my weakness was stage fright. I never really wanted to be the center of attention. Never wanted like to be the person who is leading at the forefront. but it was mostly because I didn't want to be this center of attention. But whenever I realized that, I made it a point that I actually want to take part in initiative that will make me learn, handle the pressure that I think I'm receiving, and I believe it is the reason why I managed to do some of the things I did, and of course with the support that I received from Ashesi. So I believe that if everyone is able to receive the support, identify yourself, self-awareness, they can be able to take part in initiative and responsibility.
Okay, all right. So Adam, do you want to take a cut at that question as well before perhaps I go into another question?
Hi, Patrick.
So Linda had asked about what you see as your responsibility to current and future Ashesi students.
Yeah. Well, the one word that comes to my mind is culture. Culture. I think as much as possible, I would try to impart the Ashesi culture. Well, my team from the ASE, Tamisha, and the others like to call it the Ashesi way, right? For me, that is the one thing I would like to impart to, future students and current students. I think the way Ashesi has shaped our mindset, the way Ashesi has taught us service to community, just the thinking and the way of life, helping each other out, working in teams, dreaming big and just creating new things. Just the culture of the place, the culture of what it means to be an Ashesian is what I'd like to impart. And that might be through mentorship, through simple conversations. And like Lloyd said, just encouraging people to, do big things, do hard things, and never give up. So that's what I'd like to contribute.
So Tamisha, you talked about the Ashesi bubble, right? You said there's the Ashesi bubble and there's the real world. What is in the Ashesi bubble? What are the things that make the Ashesi community what it is versus the outside?
Right. Okay, thank you for that question. So I think the first thing that I would say that exists within this Ashesi bubble is, for lack of a better phrase, a consciousness of ethics, right? Once you come on campus, and even in conversations with the JEC and the academic committee concerning plagiarism and concerning the honor code, you realize that you are thrust into this world of being very intentional about what it is that you're doing, because it's at the end of the day, as you go through Ashesi, you realize that it's not just about you, it's about what's happening around you as well. Yes, you might not be stealing and you might not be cheating, but if somebody in your department is, or somebody around you is, then you have a responsibility, towards that, whether you're going to talk to the person, whether you're going to report the person, whatever the case, you have a responsibility. And everybody, most people, I believe in Ashesi, implicitly understand this, because I remember one of the biggest shocks I had was leaving something in a classroom, leaving the classroom, coming back after a couple of hours, and nothing had been touched, shifted, changed. In fact, I don't even think anybody had looked at it. Like, everything was perfect, to the point where if I would leave Ashesi, I would accidentally leave my phone on a counter, and I'm like, wait, this is Ashesi, and I have to grab it back before it vanishes, right? But just the fact that everybody has this consciousness of ethics and this consciousness to do the right thing, right? I think that's like a major component of the Ashesi bubble. And you don't really see that outside because, as we say in Ghana, something small, it like, it's just something small. It doesn't really seem like a big deal. Nobody's really walking around thinking, oh my goodness, I saw this person doing this. I wonder what I can do to change the person's mind, or I wonder what I can do to help make the person do the right thing. And I think that that's like one of the biggest culture shocks that we face as Ashesi alums, because not everybody is like Ashesi, right? Not everybody thinks the way Ashesi has helped us to think. And so it just sort of goes back to that point of sort of spreading the bubble far and wide, yes, not just in Brekusu, not just on the hill, but being able to have that Ashesi bubble even in the outside world.
Okay, so I see another question. Interestingly, it's for Abdul and me. How do you and your staff instill these values of scholarship, leadership, and citizenship in students? Abdul, do you want to take it? I'm actually curious to know what your thoughts about how we instill it. So I really I really would love to hear what do you think we've been doing. And Abdul, if you want to chime in, go ahead as well.
Yeah, I mean, I was also very curious in hearing what you had to say, but no, but I'll start. Thank you, an excellent question. So I think both Adam and then Tamisha had touched on this, right? In terms of we've been very intentional from day one, right? So the Ashesi way, which talks about or touches on the three pillars, that these three amazing students have actually getting awards for, goes beyond just the students, right? So you have the scholarship, where everybody believes that they are learning. So from the president all the way to the janitor, everybody is learning and everybody can teach something, right? So everybody is in the classroom. We've turned the whole Ashesi campus into a classroom where everybody is an instructor and everybody is learning. Leadership, and Adam gave an excellent response about that. In terms of, it's not about the title you have, but it's really a responsibility that you have to make everybody around you better, right? That's what leadership really is. And citizenship, making an impact within the community that you find yourself. And doing all of that by having fun too, right? So you heard Tamisha talk about how difficult the classes are and all of that. But Ashesi really encourages you doing all of these things and being happy doing it, right? And it's part of the core of what Ashesi is. So the scholarship, leadership, citizenship is part of the orientation, the first things that students hear when they come. It's part of the things that alumni talk about. It's part of the things that staff and faculty, every staff and faculty orientation, President Dr. Ewa talks about this Ashesi way. So to me, it's really the engine that runs everything Ashesi, all the way through, from a janitor all the way to the president. And every other piece that you hear about, whether it's the honor, everything else, the how do you call it? The honor code is connected to it. Everything that you hear, everything that is being celebrated, whether it's sports awards, how do you call it? Court being good. You can trace all of these things back to the Ashesi way because it's the main thing and everything else grows out of it. But I'll let our president also share what his thoughts are in terms of how this has been successful here at Ashesi.
I think that's a really good summary. It's just we've been very intentional about codifying what we mean by these things. And it's something that's top of mind for everybody. And if you have a group of people that are working in an intentional way, individually and corporately, eventually it just becomes a fabric of the institution. And so it's really embedded in everything. it's what's happening in the classroom, it's things happening outside the classroom. So that's how we're doing. So there's a second question here that I think is really good one, for Adam and Tamisha. Has being in a Ashesi student government benefited you in any way? And how do you think your journey outside of Ashesi has been because of ASC? And three, do you consider national government or politics in your future? And if you could please touch on that third question, because our graduation speaker this year gave us this big challenge that, you know, we're educating these ethical citizens and leaders, and they're all working in the private sector. But we really need this in our parliaments and presidential palaces and government offices. So if you could touch on that third question as well as you answer, pick any two of these three and answer.
Okay, I'd like to go first. And I mean, before I continue with this question, I'd just like to chime in on the previous question, how, you know, you guys have instilled Ashesi's values. And I think one of the main things is the culture of openness. You know, the fact that I can just walk into Dean Abdul's office and have a conversation with him, or, you know, go to Patrick and say, Patrick, I don't understand this. What do you think about this? Or see him at the cafeteria and just have a conversation with him. I think those little things have gone a long way. And of course, the speeches. I remember our first, you know, time hearing Patrick personally at matriculation, and he was talking about Ashesi is what you make it. And I honestly think nobody forgets that speech. Everybody remembers that part. Ashesi is what you make it. And so those little things, just those conversations, because as young people, getting the opportunity to learn from those who have gone ahead of us and have seen most of it is very valuable to our development as leaders. And so I'd just like to say a big thank you to Patrick and the team for that culture. And back to the question at hand. How has being an Ashesi student government benefited me? I think it has taught me to embrace challenges and unexpected situations, especially with COVID. It was an interesting experience. I mean, trying to more or less reframe our whole view of what a student government should look like online or virtually, and trying to just help our fellow students to get through the period, for me, was a big challenge. And it has really taught me to persevere. It has taught me to, you know, be more empathetic. And it has just taught me to embrace challenges, and that the possibilities of overcoming are higher than you might think initially. So that is one. And with regards to considering national government or politics, well, for me, I am definitely considering it, but I'm being very circumspect about it.
That's great.
Yes. So yeah, I guess simply I'll just say I'm considering it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Plan a pathway to it.
I'll do that, definitely.
All right. So we need to wrap up in a couple of minutes. So Tamisha, if you could answer that very briefly as well. And then Lloyd, perhaps you could answer one last question, which is, what has been the impact of the President's Award on you? And then it'll be a wrap.
Okay. So I think I'll answer the second question that Adam didn't answer, which was on how different I think my journey outside of Ashesi has been because of the ASC. And I think what I'll say is being in the ASC. So actually what happened was I ran for vice president with someone else against Adam and lost, right? And I don't know how to explain it, but that initial interaction with the ASC broke this shell I didn't know I had. I never really considered myself to be outgoing or somebody who could talk to people or somebody who could convince people to support me, right? And just being a part of that broke this shell that has kept me going since I was third year, because even in what I'm doing now, it's, you know, I have to be vocal, I have to speak up, I have to convince people yes, I'm doing the right thing. Yes, you should support me. Yes, you should do this. And I think that that wouldn't have been possible if I hadn't run for vice president and if I also hadn't been the academic committee chairperson. So yes, the ASC broke this shell, and
All right.
here I am.
That's great. And that's an interesting story. So you competed with Adam,
Yes,
lost that competition, and then joined his team.
exactly.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, that's leadership, right?
Yeah.
That's great. Okay, Lloyd, I'll give you the last word. How has the President's Award affected you? What impact has it made? And this is a question from Mr. Steele.
Thank you very much. Firstly, I feel honored to have received this incredible award. That communicated to me that everyone was seeing the value in the work I was doing, and it is an inspiration to keep going and doing more. I know that I would have achieved this work I did without the support of others, faculties, my friends, my peer students, and making an impact is one of course the Ashesi cultures that Ashesi has instilled in me, and I hope that I can instill this culture in other people, because at the end of the day, it's not about one person, but how much you also help like lift others. So this is how this award has impacted my life. Thank you.
All right. Thank you all very much. I'll hand this over back to Corey.
Just want to say thank you again to all the alumni panelists who joined us today. This was incredible to hear from you directly about your stories and impact. I'm so excited, like many of the guests here today, to see what's even next for you, what you'll be doing in 3 years, 4 years, 5 years down the line. We can't wait to track your success and support you along the way. So also alumni, if there are other ways that we can support you along the way, if you have a website or a Twitter page we can follow your progress along, feel free to drop that in the chat as well, so all of our guests and participants can follow you and show you some love along your journey as well. And I think with that, Patrick, you're just going to give us some closing remarks and I believe a potential invitation to our trip coming up as well.
Yes, so I close by just thanking all of you for joining us this morning, this afternoon, from wherever you are. We really appreciate your time, the time that you spent with us this past hour. And I want to thank, of course, Lloyd and Tamisha and Adam for sharing your stories with us. We wish you very well, and let us know how we can help in your journey. And Adam, I'm looking forward to that campaign. I'll vote for you. So, so thank you all. Later this year in October, as many of you already know, this year we're celebrating Ashesi's 20th anniversary. And in October, we're going to have a convening for all our friends from outside Ghana to join us here in Ghana on campus. So please plan to join us. It would love to have you reconnect with Ashesi in person and celebrate these 20 years with us. Thank you.
What shall we do? Sins and John. What shall we do?